Here we go again. Just to clarify, no, I was not at the 2025 British Grand Prix. No one invited me, particularly not the Haas Formula 1 team, and just so we're very, very clear, no, this is not me.
That's rude.
Hey there guys, I'm Will and welcome to the Comedy Review, the show that was deemed too offensive for Pornhub. Yeah, it turns out animal cruelty is banned on there. It's also the show where we talk about things that happen in motorsport. Things like this. Jenson Button abducts a kid, the guy who drew dicks and everything in school gets to design a Formula 1 car, and Aston Martin attempt to be relatable by doing whatever this is.
Every time you kiss a curb, I get jealous. You like a curb, huh? You are like...
What
What does that even mean?
Anyway, we have a lot to get into as per usual, and we start here. Max Verstappen once again kicks off our news segment today as WhatsApp man desperately tried this week to put the recent Mercedes rumours to bed. Unfortunately, a bit like the alleged female employee, they said no. The Silver Arrows also found themselves in hot water with this one, as they remain supportive of current driver George Russell, whilst also updating their livery to have orange stars this weekend. Okay, that's completely unrelated, but the coincidence is funny as f***. The other driver market news surrounded Alpine, because of course it did. With Franco Colapinto's career sinking like half of Argentina's fleet in 1982, news had now broke that the French marquee have approached Porridge Man for a drive, potentially even as early as, well, tomorrow, knowing Alpine. The Finns' experience at Mercedes engines would indeed be valuable when Team Enstone make the switch for 2026, and let's be real, as much of a dumpster fire as that team is, they're probably going to be better than Cadillac, so maybe I can see this happening. Let's just have a moment of silence for Belgrano Boy, who entered the paddock this weekend and quickly contracted a dose of Duan disease as he spoke to the media.
How many drives?
One.
No.
Seriously. Yeah, it's honest, it's like a contract with Alpine, you get one shot. Did I say that live?
Colapinto at least has the advantage of being in that seat right now, meaning he has the power to change his public perception, so with that, let's hope he bounces back this weekend. Oh, no, not like that. Now, with this being the British Grand Prix, that meant London was suddenly filled with Formula 1 cars, and so I decided to identify as a high-functioning autistic this week as I attempted to visit all of them. A lot of these were just placed randomly in the fronts of sponsored shops, apart from George Russell's Mercedes, which apparently just vanished from the Adidas outlet midway through the week, in similar fashion to his contract talks for 2026. Williams did a little bit more, opening up their usual fan zone in Piccadilly Circus, this time complete with historic Formula 1 cars, their updated livery for this year's race, and a Lego recreation of Nigel Mansell's 1992 Challenger, alongside this smaller one, and I get the team's commitment to its history as it's about all they can cling on to these days, but Imola 1994, I would be shouting too loudly about that one. The main highlight though had to be the McLaren takeover of Trafalgar Square, partly due to the cars, but also partly due to the fact I got recognised, turning my already inflated ego into space debris. Infiltrating the McLaren fan base was actually easier than I thought in the end. Their superior intelligence saw them all queue up at one of the two entrances, making it very easy to get in once all of my bottles have been confiscated by security. Literally, this was the only thing that wasn't allowed into the venue, making you wonder exactly how Lando was able to make an appearance considering he has 20. On a serious note though, really cool event, and we even got a view of the team's new look for the British Grand Prix, the return of the chrome livery, which still has a little bit of orange to help the Papaya Army remember who to cheer for. Let's get into practice then, as a sunny Silverstone played host to a baking hot FP1, and it was British bias all around, as Red Bull allowed rookie Arvid Lindblad to take over Yuki Tsunoda's car, and the entire field let Lewis Hamilton set the fastest time for the sake of his and Italy's mental health. Lindblad, meanwhile, entered the session 14th, in doing so upsetting Liam Lawson in the Penis-mobile, the New Zealander having to remind his fellow driver to use his mirrors, which of course Liam became very accustomed to as he allowed lap cars through at the start of the season. Estonian Paul Aron was the other rookie substituting for FP1, taking over Hulkenberg's car as the German was suspended by Big Ben for showing far too much skin at the conclusion of last week's race in Austria. That left the 5 car of Gabriel Bortoleto to show his new teammate the ropes, though I don't believe I've seen this line through comps before. As it turned out though, this was a rather popular way to take the old turn 1, as Gasly was another to try it just moments later, in frustrating scenes of Flavio Briatore, who hoped it was Franco Colapinto instead. Silverstone has undergone a raft of changes for this edition of the British Grand Prix, and one particularly special change revolves around the new Lando stand at Stowe, painted in fluorescent yellow, allowing it to be easily identified by anyone who happens to own a cruise missile or two. One particular fan decided to do This, in a move that even made Lando Norris question his own life decisions. That was it though for what turned out to be a fairly quiet FP1, and second practice wouldn't be much more exciting, as we were left talking about combat floor upgrades, and let me just take a minute, Brad Pitt's spunk has just somehow made it all the way through my f***ing window. After a tough few weeks, Sainz found himself attracted to his old Ferrari drive out of Woodco, ending the session P16, 1.3 seconds away from eventual pace to Norris, with both Ferraris still hot on Papaya's heels, so that'll be a nice bit of copium for the Scuderia heading into Saturday. Before we get there though, let's find out who's our ex-bell end of the week. Now, with this being the British Grand Prix, and having just talked about the Lando stand, I had a great Nozza simp for our submission today. Jesus, alright then. You see, one person that didn't enjoy practice so much was Red Bull and Max Verstappen, whose car had taken up the traditional British culture of racism and wouldn't therefore go within the postcode of those pesky apexes. That triggered a response from @Gert__yo, an ex-user who still seemingly communicates in hieroglyphics, and one who felt the need to give the reigning world champion some driver coaching. When you're understeering past an apex, number one rule is you don't keep turning. You straighten the wheel and ask for grip again. What's this guy doing? Yeah, you can see the responses to this one already, can't you? Silence, four-time world champion. 19-year-old Twitter user is talking. Me after winning a rental kart session against a family of 5. Four-time champion Max Verstappen when Twitter user Gert__yo tells him he's driving wrong. Damn, you're right. Send it back to F3. What does that four-time world champion, 65-time race winner and 117-time podium finisher know about racing anyway? This was possibly the most nominated ex-bell end we've ever had, so well done on that one. And if you'd like to nominate the next, use the hashtag on screen, tag me on the platform, or join our Discord server. Now let's see if Max takes this advice as Saturday rolls around. Oh look, spooky dookie or creepy peepee. Let me know down in the comments below. What? Charles Leclerc would make it 3 different drivers topping the 3 practice sessions in Silverstone in what looked like it was going to be another uneventful session, until about the last 5 minutes where all the shit hit the fan. It all started when Lance Stroll forgot what car he was driving and attempted to enter the support race pit lane. Granted, it looked like he's been driving an F3 car for a while now. Then Ollie Behrman's Haas machine started to publicly strip down the hangar straight. That brought out a red flag as this Silverstone marshal sued the crowd. Oh, for f***'s sake. The track would go green with a few minutes remaining in the sessions. We got to congratulate Gabriel Bortoleto, who made it past Cops this time. Sadly, Maggots and Beckett's were a bit too much to ask for. As the Sauber's front left suspension went on strike, the red flags were out again, though that wasn't the end of the chaos, as Behrman fancied shedding a few more parts on his way back to the pit lane, in a move that made Max Verstappen wet himself and got the Brits in a 10th-place grid drop and 4 penalty points for dangerous driving. Still, could always be worse. Your name could be Franco Colapinto, who really needed a good qualifying session in the afternoon, and losing it on the live feed probably wasn't what he had in mind. Right, I guess it's qualifying, so here you go. Fantastic news for the British crowd then. What wasn't so fantastic was Ferrari not fueling Hamilton for enough laps and leaving him at the mercy of the backmarkers as the seconds ticked down in Q1. Heckling on as Belgrano boy was joined in the drop zone by the usual suspects, Sauber, Special and Liam Lawson. That leads us nicely into Q2 where Snowder came across the line to just squeeze in 10th, and with the whole field on a quick lap behind, yeah, long story short, I think you're f***ed. Joining in would be the Williams cars, Hadjar and Ocon. The Frenchman considerably thrashed by Haas teammate Behrman. Guess it's too bad, he already has that 10th-place grid penalty. We just had the top 10 shootout to go then, and for once, this was very much up in the air. McLaren were quick, but it was between them and Ferrari over who was the team to beat. After the initial runs though, it was advantage Piastri, the Australian pipping teammate Norris, who was soon shuffled down to 3rd, as Hamilton briefly remembered how to drive an F1 car once again. Norris had it all to do on his final lap then, and having set the fastest middle sector of anyone, looked very much to be on the money. Then he bottled the final corner, and that was all she wrote for that one. What followed appeared to be then some sort of Nozza tribute, as Piastri fluffed up club corner even more, and Hamilton stole the Britain's famous driving on the grass technique as he wiped himself out of contention as well. All that was left then was Max Verstappen, who 5 minutes after calling his car undrivable, put together an unreal effort to go a 10th faster than anyone. Damn, maybe we should have listened to that Gert__yo after all. Also, I'm just hearing there's been a shooting incident at the Lando stand, multiple brain injuries. Oh, never mind, they had those beforehand. So having woken up to a wet weather forecast and some more violation on Twitter, we were almost ready to get going for this one. First though, it was time to unveil the trophies. Silverstone, of course known for its famous silverware, and imagine you've just worked your ass off for 3 hours, inscribed your name in the writing of the gods, only to be handed the trophy made from f***ing Lego. Hey, on the bright side, at least Lando can rebuild his when he breaks it on the podium again. Anyway, the rain had cleared up for the formation lap, providing a dilemma for the teams, all of whom had initially planned to start on the intermediate tyres. That's all the likes of Leclerc and Russell dive into the pits as the field formed up, giving us one of the strangest starting grids in recent times, where it appeared half of the cars had just given up and gone home. Colapinto also came in, having started in the pit lane to begin with, stalled and got stuck in second gear. Yeah, it was nice knowing you, pal. As Argentina mourned his loss then, the 5 lights went out, and Piastri poked his nose up the inside of Verstappen into turn 1. Ocon then penetrated the penis-mobile of Lawson, which left him stranded on the Wellington Straight, and the virtual safety car deployed. That came in as we went green for all of about 30 seconds. Gabriel Bortoleto wasn't able to survive on slicks when the track was dry, so I'm not quite sure what Sauber were expecting when they placed him on the mediums, only to watch as he turned his C45 into a neon green fidget spinner. So we tried this again on lap 7, Verstappen leading Piastri, who took little time to scythe past the Dutchman as attention turned to teammate Norris, who also made it by after transmitting the bottle onto the Red Bull driver. The McLaren's taking advantage of the drying conditions. Drying, though, wasn't a word we'd be able to use for very much longer though. The rain was intensifying, to the point where even Ben Sulayem couldn't see his micro penis through the spray. That caused the field to pit for fresh inters. As for those who got onto the slicks, well, they'll be in our thoughts and prayers for the remainder of this one. On lap 14, the safety car was deployed, and no, we're not getting a red flag, put that away. We might just have needed one though, as soon as we went back to racing speed, Hajar put the other penis-mobile right into the wall via Kimi Antonelli's prostate. With the young Italian's arse now well and truly destroyed, he was out as well, as we prepared to get going again on lap 21, and Oscar Piastri became the new de facto safety car, and unveiled a new love for his brake pedal as it turned out. This ruffled Verstappen on the restarts, quite a lot actually, as the Red Bull driver went to attempt the remainder of this race in hard mode, spinning to the back as Piastri led the field to green. The stewards took a dim view on the Australians' actions, handing the 81 car a 10-second penalty, enough to trigger Piastri's emotions update as the McLaren driver didn't appear very happy with that news. Meanwhile, the rain was busy waterboarding Charles Leclerc, who attempted the new wet line called the straight lining Maggots and Beckett's. And in case you didn't think this race was mental enough, we were only at half distance, and Lance Stroll was on the f***ing podium. To make matters even more insane, Nico Hülkenberg was the car behind, and as the track dried out, again, he had the pace to make the move on the Canadian. Hulk wasn't out of the woods yet though, as behind he had drivers like Hamilton and Russell to contend with. Luckily for Sauber, Pierre Gasly's Frenchness was keeping them at bay, as further back, things continued to resemble the Somme, Behrman going around and Tsunoda getting a 10-second penalty, because apparently the Japanese driver hasn't suffered enough. Haas's day then got worse as Behrman and Ocon attempted their rendition of synchronized f***ing up, carbon fiber now spewed over the track, but no safety car because we weren't going to risk that shit again. The track was now once again reaching the crossover point, with Russell and Alonso being the first to take the gamble on slick tyres, this edging about as well as my Land Over video from a few weeks ago. Hamilton had now closed the gap to Hülkenberg, but also stopped too early, so when the podium curse ballsed up the German's pit stop, Nico was still able to retain P3, with just 10 laps to go to hold on till the checkered flag. We were just waiting on the McLarens to stop then, Piastri boxing first and serving that 10-second penalty, and unsurprisingly finding Lando Norris ahead of him when the Briton pitted 1 lap later. Oscar then came over the radio to ask the team if they didn't think the penalty was fair, they should let the cars re-invert and fight it out to the flag. That's the definition of wishful thinking. So after a grueling 52 laps of wet, then dry, then very wet, then dry again racing action, Lando Norris came across the line to take a memorable home win at the British Grand Prix. But quite frankly, who gives a flying f***? Nico Hülkenberg, P19 on the starting grid, P3 at the end. 239 Grand Prix, the longest career without a podium. No longer. And to celebrate, he gets a f***ing Lego trophy. Now, I can't believe this. A Grand Prix of feel-good stories then, and by a country mile the best one of the season. There was hardly a dull lap this afternoon, and giving it just a 10 out of 10 doesn't feel like enough. So instead, let's go with a 77 out of 10. Fair play, Nico Hülkenberg. Now, I'm sure you want my thoughts on that Piastri penalty as well, and to be honest, I don't really see what the problem was to begin with. This feels very much on the edge of what erratic driving is, and while I'm not going to delve to the extremes of claiming this was manufactured for a British victory, like half of the degenerates currently occupying my Twitter feed, I will say this didn't feel like a race Norris won, but more of a race that Piastri lost. Well, that's Formula 1 at the end of the day, And we will and truly have a championship battle on now as we head into the second half of the season. Let me know your race rating down in the comments below, and while we do have no on-track action for the next 2 weeks, I'm sure there'll be plenty of news and analysis to cover on the channel in the meantime, not to mention an IndyCar triple header starting tonight in Mid-Ohio. I'll be back to cover that one tomorrow. If you enjoyed this video though, drop it a like and get subscribed for more. Huge thank you goes out to the patrons and channel members for all of their continued support. Check out the links in the description below on that one. And finally, I direct this to the individuals that called me Percy Pig at the start of this video. F*** off.